Welcome to our joint webinar with Software 2 in partnership with Parallels. It's Wednesday, April 18th. Yeah, I see a number of our customers have joined us today. I really appreciate you taking the time. We've got some great information to share with you today. It's also great to see a lot of new names today at the webinar. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dave Miller, Vice President of Business Development in North America, and I've had the privilege to work with many of you. Also today with us is Phil Spitzy, our director in the Northeast, and he came from us, if you don't know, he came to us from Lemoyne College and was in your seat not long ago. Over the last few years, I've had the pleasure of helping colleges and universities deliver applications on demand through our AppsAnywhere app store. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that in a bit, but first I'd like to introduce Victor Fiss of Parallels, and he's going to share the agenda for our presentation today. Victor?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And I'm the Director of Pre-Sales Engineer at Parallels. I have been working in the virtualization space for quite some time. And I'm very glad that we're working the partnership today and also how we could work together in different opportunities. So the agenda today, we will be covering 4 different areas. The first one, of course, we already covered about the introduction, how the journey started, why we're here today. A quick overview about what is Parallels Remote Application Server. Just to familiarize a little bit, it's called RAS, and the core functionalities and what we have combined together with Software 2. And then, of course, we'll show you a demonstration how using Software 2 technology and use Parallels Remote Application Server delivery capabilities to give you apps pretty much on any device. One of the key pieces in the demo today, beyond what would you see in the Software 2, we'll showcase how you can access those applications using an iPad. But keep in mind, the technology also works on other platforms such as Chrome OS, Chromebooks, and other Android devices. The third part is how the integration works and why we have done that. And if you have any questions throughout this webinar today, please post them in our Q&A section, and we will be addressing those questions in the end of the webinar. And of course, if you need to leave or you want to share this webinar with others later, we're recording the session today, and we'll be sending you an email within the next couple of days with the recorded session. So what is Parallels Remote Application Server? So imagine scenarios that you have a lot of Windows applications, Windows packages, and they run very, very well on Windows platforms. And combining with what AppsAnywhere can do, creating application packages and keeping them running on your servers, you can deploy and deliver all of your applications to any devices, regardless the operating system they have. So it can be other Windows computers or PCs, could be Macs, could be iPhones, iPads, Chromebooks, and so on. And the idea here is we can either deliver those applications using a client that you install on every computer, or stream those applications in real time using HTML5 technology. And in all of those use cases, we don't compromise functionalities that your users like. For example, file access, folder redirection, printing and scanning capabilities. So we are just running those applications in the backend infrastructure or your cloud, and then delivering to your users. Another great benefit that we see with our customer base, because cost is very important, is the life cycle to update application packages in one location instead of multiple locations. You just update them in your data center, and then the distribution to end users, it's pretty much instant. We also increase security to certain groups or people depending where they are in the organization. Let's say finance or faculty that is dealing with confidential information, or even research, you might want to introduce two-factor authentication. So throughout those mechanisms, we integrate with other technologies to make sure your information is always secured. And from an access perspective and usage perspective, we pretty much track what the user is doing. And we can also help them in case they have any issues or needs. So in terms of functionalities, what do we cover? I have 3 slides for that, in fact. One of them we already spoke about. It is called the application and desktop delivery. And the application and desktop delivery, we're leveraging Microsoft Remote Desktop session host or terminal servers, depending how you wanted to call it. And we are running those applications on these servers and delivering to the end users. For some use cases where you need to do video streaming or calls or video conferencing, we leverage the most and advanced technologies that Microsoft has developed for the Microsoft RDP protocol, and you don't need to make additional configurations. During the install process, which we can have remote application server up and running in your environment more or less in 90 minutes, automatically configure those settings. We're agnostic where you deploy remote application server. You can deploy on-premise, which means in your data center or your infrastructure. We can deploy them with cloud service providers, for example, Amazon and as well Microsoft Azure, or a combination of both. That could be part of the solution running on-premise or another part running with the cloud infrastructure. For proof of concept, for example, you can set up an Azure appliance within 10 to 15 minutes with basic configuration set up where you can see and showcase the technology. Application delivery can be done via HTML5 browser. And this is a great idea in terms of zero client deployment footprint. The idea here is you provide just a secure URL using AppsAnywhere, and the application will launch using our HTML5 broker or client, if you will. Connection is encrypted, and you have out-of-the-box capability to do printing and file upload or download. Of course, that depends on your user profile or how you define the user profile for students and faculty. You can set certain parameters to keep it more strict or more open, depending on the use case. You can customize which access and what level of security is implied in HTML5. And very, very soon, HTML5 will also be able to take, pictures or file upload or download directly into the mobile clients. I'll cover that a little bit today in the demo when we showcase how applications can be leveraged using the iOS client and HTML5 capabilities. PowerShell, usually we leverage that feature for automation in large environments. If you need to add new servers, add new users, applications, and so on. One of the great features we do, and we are adding additional more capabilities very soon in our PowerShell API, is the ability to talk to your hypervisor and automatically scale virtual machines to address workloads, which means if I'm having heavy traffic with my production number of terminal servers, we can add a few more, and later on you can remove them from your pool. This is a feature that we're showcasing now as a new beta feature we have, and will be production for customers in the June timeframe. We truly do load balancing. We distribute application workload based upon user performance and number of sessions that you have. So applications that you engage with AppsAnywhere could be running based upon certain CPU requirements or server requirements, or if you want to have a failover based upon sessions, no problem. We can distribute the load automatically. What we do it by default, there are no required configuration or customization needed. We come automatically with failover or load balancing feature enabled, as long as you have two different virtual machines distributing the workload. And this resolves a lot of challenges we see in customers using different technologies like VMware and Citrix because they're complex. We're coming here to, first of all, make the management and usage much more simpler, and at the same time with a much more competitive cost for you and your organization. And for two-factor authentication, Parallels integrates with a few vendors, although we're compliant to using RAS technology, so you can enable two-factor authentication using this particular framework, or in some use cases that we have worked with different universities in the past, use of smart cards, especially with the research group that they need to have sometimes government-issued smart cards and so on. In that case, we use our Parallels client to do the handshake between the smart card and your authentication authority. On the next slide, it's related to a few important things related to user and control, especially on compliance level and at the same time printing. We come with our own universal printing technology, which is pretty much plug and play. So you use Parallels client on your computers, Macs, and iOS, we automatically redirect end user printers to the servers. No configuration is required from an end user and from the administrator perspective. The universal printing works with network printers and as well with local printers like USB printers that users might attach to their computers, Chromebooks, and other devices. What is very important as well with universal printing, it also works with our HTML5. So you just send to what we call 2x universal printer, and then it's like printing a web page. If you go to any airline or Amazon or the websites you go and you want to print a page, you will see the same type of dialogue for you to choose and pick the printers you want. On the client policy management side, this is something that we see as a great value when you have thousands of users you need to manage. You can create a few policies related to Active Directory groups, and based upon those policies, you can virtually control any settings from your clients. And you don't have to go to every single client. That is done in the RAS console, which is called the controller component. And as soon as the user opens the client, either directly or using AppsAnywhere, they will be following those controls. And those controls can be simple configurations like multi-monitor, what kind of printers or scanners, or even policies controlling access to file, save, or upload or download features. One of the features, in fact, that we do a lot, and especially in the education business, or even people using Mac devices or Surface Books, those devices now come with high definition displays. Okay, so we have a feature or a checkbox that you set as an advanced policy to automatically detect those devices and open the applications that you open in high resolution as well. So users don't have to rely on asking your IT team what to do. That's all done and pushed directly to the end users. So the idea here is, throughout the devices that you have in the field, which is pretty much diverse, we give a very similar experience using the client, using the HTML5, using AppsAnywhere, using the iOS interface. And in fact, using the iOS interface, we enhance the user experience. We bring to those devices in iOS and Android our own magnifier, which I'll showcase today, and using our own keyboard on top of the operating system, which means special keys, special capturing. You can use your own customized shortcuts, throughout those platforms. And once we deploy RAS, we're pretty much flexible. We run pretty much on any version of Windows Server. So if a specific application cannot run on Windows Server 2003, no problem. We can work with that. We can run our agent on that non-supported operating system of Microsoft anymore, and you stream the application. So pretty much a single console to manage the RAS infrastructure, overseeing pretty much all versions of Windows servers. The same thing happens in the VDI space. If you need to have VDI deployed with Windows XP, Windows 7, and Windows 10, our VDI agent supports all of those versions of Windows that are current or already deprecated by Microsoft. On the hypervisor level, we're agnostic. We work with Citrix Xen Server, VMware, Microsoft Hyper-V, and KVM-based hypervisor, which includes Acropolis if you're using Nutanix technology or hyperconvergence technology. And of course, when we talk about hyperconvergence services or technologies, we are certified by Nutanix, Lenovo, and HP Enterprise to run on their hardware. All of this information is available at the Parallels website. You can see the case studies, scalability tests, and the best configuration for those customers. So on the cloud service provider, again, we support Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. So how before we just go to the demo, I wanted to highlight to you a little bit more how the integration works, and then Dave and Phil will show you how, from AppsAnywhere, you will see the integration happening. So let me just set the stage for a quick moment. So we have three major components: the session host, cloud page, and the virtual desktop. The idea is you already using AppsAnywhere, you can choose applications or other services that you have today from the web portal to connect to Parallels and have the application delivered. So let's take a look in the session host first. So the session host mode is delivering the apps that we already have installed on every single terminal server. And the delivery happens this way. AppsAnywhere will look into your persona and configuration. It will contact the Parallels infrastructure and tell the client, look, connect to this server, open this application for user Victor. This process happens behind the scenes, which means Parallels and Software 2 integrated the technologies behind the scenes. If we're using cloud page, we can do the same process, and the cloud page application will be running a session host, which means it's not using local resources of the PC or Mac or Android or iOS device, and it will be also delivered either using what we call native client or HTML5. And you don't lose any features related to file transfer and printing. And the last mode is if you're using VDI, virtual desktops that can be either delivered using RDSH or existing VDI infrastructure that would be running on Windows 7 and Windows 10, or even XP. So Dave, maybe here's a good breakpoint that we could be showing a little bit more in real life how RAS and Software 2 works together.
Sounds great, Victor. Just give me the controls and I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, so let me just change your role for a moment here as a presenter, and then you'll be able to click in the button. Here you go. We can see your screen now.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thanks for the excellent overview. I appreciate that, Victor. So let me just kind of pause and go back a little bit and give you some background on the unified application delivery, but I also want to talk about why we're doing what we're doing with the integration. So as you know, we work with universities, across the world, and colleges and universities, and we see, proliferation of many multiple devices that students are bringing, and that continues to grow every day. So we've been asked by our customers over the last few years about, how can we look at elegant solutions for delivering applications to multiple devices, and we looked into that and found that there was, some very complex and expensive options there that we all know about. But one of our customers, Durham University, actually came across the ParallelsRAS guys and said, hey, take a look at this. And so we did, and we were very excited after we looked under the hood and saw the opportunities that we had with ParallelsRAS. So we went ahead and started an integration project with them. It went very well. And we were able to set up with the ParallelsRAS team very quickly the ability to deliver Windows applications to Macs and Chromebooks and Linux devices for Durham University. So I want to thank the Parallels folks and team for really helping us kind of been able to continue down this journey of being able to deliver any application to any device. And it's really, I think, put us in a terrific position right now. So I'm going to go talk about unified application delivery, which is our kind of unique way, and I think we really are truly unique in being able to deliver applications to any device and kind of how we think about how that works. So what we've done is we've put together integrations with other technologies, and most of you are probably familiar with Numescent. That's the virtualization technology, the packaging technology that enables us to package 100% of Windows apps and deliver those to multiple devices, and then also the delivery method. So from a Windows to Windows delivery, we feel that cloud paging is the best way to go about that. But what we've been able to do is say, to package the application once using cloud paging, and then you can actually deliver that across other platforms if you choose, depending on your use case, because we know that there's not only one way to deliver an application to multiple devices. There's multiple ways, and not every application can be delivered to every device other than very expensive means. So Parallels is now our preferred method together with cloud paging to deliver any application to any device. So we actually are selling that application, or we're selling that technology all together. And for those of you that use, that are not familiar with us, that use SCCM, we're also integrated with Microsoft SCCM. You can also deliver AppV applications through SCCM, and then VMware and Citrix. So from an app virtualization side, to kind of summarize, the Numescent cloud paging we think is best in class, and that'll be an integral part of what we do. But you can also access applications via the web. You can install native Mac applications via SCCM. You can also install native Mac applications, and then for different use cases where you may need to use VDI or Citrix, there's an opportunity to integrate. But the whole beauty of the unified application delivery is that, again, you can package an application once, a Windows application, and deliver that through ParallelsRAS or other technologies seamlessly to the end user. So to the end user, the actual launching of the application looks exactly the same, and I'll show you that here in a minute. And that's what enables us to be able to deliver the applications across, Apple devices, Android devices, Linux devices, Windows devices. So in summary, the unified application delivery is a very, I think, an elegant way for us to make the user interface very seamless and enable the applications to be delivered to multiple devices in a very consistent way. To summarize, too, on the ParallelsRAS side, I'll just show you kind of a quick diagram of what happens in a ParallelsRAS session with a cloud-paged application. So let's say that an Android device or an iPad came through here and wanted to connect into our App Store. So what would happen is that user would then authenticate directly to our App Store, and at that time, the App Store would then make the decision, okay, we've got a cloud-paged app. It's a Windows application that user is asking to launch. So let's go ahead and take that cloud-paged app and then deliver that through the ParallelsRAS session. So again, seamless, one Windows application delivered directly through the ParallelsRAS being cloud paged, which is a very efficient way to do that, and then that delivers that back to the actual Android or Mac device. So again, very efficient way to get applications out to multiple devices. And what we've done with the App Store is created intelligence behind the App Store to know what the device is and how to deliver those applications the appropriate way. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the demonstration. I'll actually take you into to a live demonstration here in just a minute. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about what the App Store does again, and you know, give you an idea to see kind of how it looks. Many of you, of course, are using this today. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and sign into the App Store. It's single sign-on. We've got multiple ways that you can authenticate with our App Store. So it's bringing me in now, and it's validating me as a user. So it basically is saying that you know, I'm a credentialed student or faculty and staff, and I'm you know, able to launch these applications that are given to me. Now, you can also change the view of the App Store if you choose. We've got multiple ways to do that. But when the device comes in, right now I'm on a Windows device, and you can see kind of at the bottom that I've got a Windows device that I'm bringing in, and you know, I'm in the U.S., I'm running Windows 10. And then again, these are the applications that are available for me to be able to access. So you can see that the launch buttons are all exactly the same, but the technologies behind the launch buttons are different in many instances. And we've got the ability within the App Store, as I mentioned on the integration slide, to be able to deliver applications, Windows to Windows devices, or Windows applications to alternate devices, but also Mac native applications can be installed, Windows applications can be installed. So there's a lot of flexibility that we have, and we'd be happy to talk to any of you a little bit more about the detail there in your use case. So what I'll do now, though, is I'm going to show you launching a Windows application to let's say it's a Mac device that we're going to do here, basically, and this would be through ParallelsRAS with a ParallelsRAS client. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Visio, and that's going to bring it up here in just a second. So I'm launching, again, a Windows application here via Parallels to a Mac device seamlessly. And here I've got Visio running on the device here. So I've got full functionality for that. So again, if the user is using an alternate device other than a Windows device, then they would go about it that way. Let's say that they're running a Chromebook, for instance, and you know, they don't have the ability to get a client, but we want to run it in the HTML5 browser. We think that's the most efficient way to do that. Then I'm going to go ahead and launch one of my favorites, Pac-Man. It'll come up here in a second. And this is actually running on the HTML5 browser. So this is our cloud paging player that can either be shown up or we can actually hide that, and then we can play Pac-Man here. So there's Binky for you, and basically I'm running this Windows application through the HTML5 browser. Okay. So in summary, the launch button, again, is going to be the same for the end user. What we've done is put an app store together that's very user-friendly, that enables the student, faculty, or staff member to launch applications all in one location. We've got a fully integrated space with ParallelsRAS, and we're really excited about bringing that to you all. Okay. Victor, I'm going to turn it over to you now for the iPad demonstration, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just go back here to quick start. Let me just make myself again as a presenter. And okay, so let me just share my screen one more time. And then let me open QuickTime here, which will connect to my iPad. So the idea here is very briefly to illustrate in a very similar way here in the iPad. Let me just maximize the screen. So I have here the Parallels client already running on my iPad, and we have a few interesting features. So you can use different connections, like you can use favorite connections or even use Touch ID capabilities, like if it's part of your security model or needs. And here you would see, the list of applications that, in this case, they are, hosted in the RAS server. So the idea here, very quickly, it's to use the client, which integrates with the operating system, where you can see different options here, where you can change different settings, parameters for users, if you want to use, touch experience, if you want to use a mouse that it's a third party using Bluetooth technology. All of those options are possible with the ParallelsRAS client, especially in the iOS platform. Excel is a good example to show a very difficult tool to use on iPad or on other devices, where we simplify the usage, especially if you're using third-party keyboards, if you're using mouse, or even just using the touch screen for that matter. So as you can see, the red keyboard appeared here, showing that I'm using my native, iOS keyboard here. Now let me create a file like users or anybody would leverage. And the moment you start seeing Excel, how do you interact with it? So using the finger and tapping on the screen, we detect what the application menu characteristics is. So you can use and precisely select certain objects on the screen. The second part of using our own technology and old magnifier is give the precision of the mouse back to your finger. So you can maximize and see exactly what color or feature you want to select. Other interesting feature in this particular client is how you navigate from one application to another. When we work with migrations from Citrix and other vendors, I have difficulty using the client. So we mimic like a Windows desktop or a Mac desktop using what we call the app launcher capability, or you see all of your applications and files already open. So you can toggle from one to another very, very easy. Once you complete or you finish the document that you're working on, you can either interact with the local storage to save files or print it. And what I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, we can select the printer that is allocated for my iPad. And we're going to use our own printing technology, which means, look, it's a complete document that is natively integrated with AirPrint. So for end users, the ability to see and interact, it's fairly easy. And in this case, of course, we're using our client, and you can leverage those features. Now, if you don't like touch, we just click on this particular gear. We can change to use a regular mouse, or if you have a third-party mouse that is Bluetooth, usually we work with SwiftPoint, you could use a pointer that would be like a regular mouse connected to your iPad. So not many vendors have this capability, and we think this is a game changer because you can use whatever you feel it's comfortable. And similar to what you see in new Macs, the touch bar, we have what we call here the additional keys, where you can select different keys integrated with the screen, especially certain apps that you might need to use function keys or a combination of them. And in the tablet world, is a little bit difficult to use. So this is one way to deliver as well on mobile clients. And in fact, I liked using the iPad when I'm on the road because it's fully functional. I don't have to carry weight. All of my Windows applications are available, and we don't leave files behind. All of my files, all of my documents, and other key important activities I do on my daily work, it's there. And if I move from one computer to another, like what Dave was showing in the beginning, your session follows you. So you don't have to reopen your applications. You don't have to move, re-log in and do all of the process again. It is super simple. So that covers a little bit more on the end user side. Of course, if you are interested to go deeper, we can schedule a demo for that matter. If I transition now to the console, which is more what an administrator would see. We also simplify the process where you can add new servers. We have different wizards that you can add new session hosts, publish the applications that are hosted in RAS, and you can check how your farms are behaving. In this particular case, I have a combination between different remote desktop session hosts. I have VDI, I have PCs. And the PCs is a very good use case. A lot of people still use VPNs just to connect to PCs. With ParallelsRAS, either using native client and HTML5, you can install our agent on those Windows devices and securely access them. I mentioned about load balancing. By default, we're load balancing via resources and a couple of other metrics related to performance. And we limit the number of sessions in the backend infrastructures end users will be accessing. So you can have better control on infrastructure consumption, Microsoft licenses, and the applications. If they need to be running side by side, they will be running on that approach. For mobile clients, we have here what we call useful shortcuts. You can define those shortcuts like open, close, or specific tool or application you have that have specific keystrokes. You can use them in the mobile client, and it's not going to be clunky. It's just a screen button that you select. Printing automatically comes out of the box, so you don't have to install printer drivers. In thinking about universal printing, it is already configured by default. And scanning, especially for Windows users that they deal with a lot of file uploads, we support different ways to deliver it. Pretty much the standard, which is WA and Twain. And when we talk about connections, we also make sure authentication can be controlled. We always authenticate against your Active Directory. And here is where you can use different technologies to do two-factor authentication. So for example, if certain apps only have a user ID and password, you can use ParallelsRAS with two-factor authentication, adding another layer of security. And depending how you set up, what is very interesting is you can set different gateways, which means how users are accessing Parallels Remote Application Server. If they are in campus, they don't need to use two-factor authentication. But if they are working from home, like a Starbucks or a non-trusted network, you can enable two-factor authentication. So this is powerful that you can define these particular zones. And the control of the policies, when Dave opened, for example, Visio and used the Parallels client natively, every time he logs into his environment or somebody uses HTML5, we match where he's coming from and what group he is, and we can set different criteria. For example, how printing is going to be working. You can enable it, disable it. You can set scanning or different experience level to make sure the best image quality or the best performance or the best printing compression is delivered to the end user. So all of those parameters are not scripts. They're pretty much check boxes that you see in Parallels Remote Application Server. And of course, you can set different settings and parameters related to how web pages are open. If you have email as a use case where the email, it will be open the client, local or on server. So you have total flexibility to manage that out. And how your environment is running, we provide different reportings. And of course, in the monitoring side, we provide without additional charge. This is very important. All of the features that we give in Remote Application Server, they are all inclusive within the same price. So there's no different tiers that you pick. And those features, for example, for monitoring, reporting, and so on, they come with the solution. You just need to configure those additional components, as we call it, including load balancing. Now, this is more related to information on how we are measuring metrics, but we also have reports, and those reports can tell you based upon what has been triggered and used in remote application server. So now I'm connecting to our SQL database, and I can see users' logins, what applications were open, for how long the sessions were opening. So we provide a complete set of reports that helps you to control the user sessions and activities. We have a customer in the West Coast. It's a large university using Parallels Remote Application Server, and they use this report as part of chargeback. And the reports, in fact, can give us, for example, active time, idle time, and the same way I can see, for example, for a specific user, in this case, this gentleman called Chris, how much time he was connected. I can see, let me just make it a little bit bigger here. I can see what time the session started, ended, how long it was active. And you can specify parameters. So you can see who's connecting at night or during the days or for a month period and so on. From an application usage perspective, all of the sessions or applications using hashtag numbers, they were triggered by RAS. Like when Dave opened Visio and he opened Pac-Man, those would be representing the report as well. The interesting part about this reporting component, as soon as you set up SQL and the reporting engine, nothing else has to be done. We're automatically collecting this information. So let me just recap very quickly about RAS for a moment. You can start a proof of concept anytime. We can have a deeper discussion and as well how we work together with software too. Another important piece about our technology and how it works side by side is the ability to quickly integrate, quickly give you how a functional environment. And if you choose to use Parallels, we have great pricing and great onboarding programs. So majority of our customer base, we usually have them up and running fairly quick. Dave, anything else you want to add?
No, Victor, excellent overview. Thank you very much. It's very exciting to see everything integrated and working together, and we're excited to bring it out to our current customers and new customers. I think we're ready for Q&A.
Okay, so folks, if you have questions to be added here, please feel free to add into the Q&A section in the WebEx, and we'll be happy to address those questions. Okay, the first question we have here is, how is your licensing model? Okay, the Parallels licensing model is based on subscription, and the average price is around, I think, $100 per concurrent user per year. Includes all of the remote application server features, 24/7 support, and during the proof of concept and onboarding, that part of the scope is already included.
Mm-hmm. And just to add to that, so all the purchasing for our AppsAnywhere folks or prospects would come through us. So we actually have this all integrated in the total AppsAnywhere package from a purchasing standpoint.
Super. The next question is, will this work with multiple domains within an organization? Yes, we support multiple domains, and also we support trusted domains. So as long as the RAS controller can speak with other domains that you have, yes, it supports multiple domains. In some cases, customers have also divided their main license, as we call it, as sub-licenses to install in complete independent domains. So you have complete control of the license and how it's distributed. So both use cases is possible. Any more questions? I don't think there are additional questions, so I guess we could adjourn this particular webinar. And I really appreciate your time today to attend this webinar and look forward working with you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.